Welcome to the brand new channel, To All Peoples. This is going to be an exciting channel. Honestly, this is the most exciting channel that I've been looking forward to doing for a long time. I've been really wondering how to launch this channel. So if you're coming in from any of my other channels, welcome. This channel is dedicated to foreign missions. Now, that can be a bit complicated if we're talking to people all the way around the world, right? Perhaps you're in Zimbabwe and you say foreign missions doesn't include Zimbabwe. And, technically it doesn't, does it? For you, you're going to just have to not apply the Zimbabwe section of the videos to you because that's your home. But what I mean by that is cross-cultural ministry, cross-cultural evangelism, planting churches in other cultures, particularly in cultures that do not have sufficient churches to reach their own people groups. So as we talk through all these videos, we're going to have a whole bunch of terms that we're going to be throwing out there. If you're not familiar with them, it may be like, what language is he speaking? To all peoples. This channel is dedicated for the gospel and for disciples to be made of every people group. A people group is a self-identifying group. So whenever you have a group of people in the world that basically says us and them, everyone who's not part of us is someone else. So the United States, most people in the United States would consider themselves Americans. So that way, most Americans are a people group. Now, if you run into somebody in the United States and they say, I'm from Mexico, I'm Mexican. You say, well, you're here in the United States, but you're not American because you say you're not American, right? What are you? Are you Hispanic? Now, we are starting to see in the United States where more and more groups seem to be differentiating themselves, starting to pull apart and starting to identify themselves. We don't believe that the major categories in the United States are yet individual people groups, because one of the defining aspects of a people group are separate language groups. So the United States and England would generally be considered, for the most part, people would be in the same people group because they could interact with each other and they would still say, hey, you're like me, right? But when you start getting into some of these countries where you have all these tribal factions, the different tribes may be different people groups. And in a lot of cases, you have countries that have hundreds and hundreds of people groups. And so this is a very confusing thing, but generally one of the best tests is how far can the gospel spread through relationships? Can you connect everybody through relationships to somebody else, right? So if I have a relationship to so-and-so, and so-and-so has a relationship to so-and-so, so-and-so has a relationship to the grocery store manager who has a relationship with so-and-so and so-and-so, and through that we can kind of connect to somebody else in our in this area, right? And that would show that I am in the same people group as them. But once you have these hard walls where there just aren't these cross relationships that people really listen to each other, that's what we're talking about. In the Bible, it talks about ethne, right? It talks about nations. And it's not talking about countries, it's talking about people groups. And we are commanded by Jesus to go to all nations and make disciples. Make disciples of all nations, of all people groups. So our task as Christians is to take the gospel to all the people groups of the world, not just all the countries on the map, right? Jesus is a man who is the ruler of all the peoples, not of lines that we arbitrarily drew on the map. And he wants representatives from every people group before his throne as Christians. We need to have flourishing churches in each and every people group. we would call a people group an unreached people group if they have less than 2% of the population being Christian. That's generally assumed that if you have 2% evangelical believers, then they have enough of a gospel witness to reach the population. Some populations are historically Christian, but they don't necessarily have a large evangelical component. But generally, the people in there can find the gospel. If it's like a Coptic or Syrian Orthodox people group or something like that. So we would sometimes count those as reached people groups, even though there may not be a significant enough evangelical presence there. Now, okay, we'll get into that one now. Okay, right? The big question: where am I coming from? Well, I'm coming from a conservative Baptist, but like a conservative dancing Baptist, a conservative jeans-wearing Baptist, right? So a lot of the large denominations in the United States, they're Baptists, like the Southern Baptist Convention, ABWE. I'd feel very in line with a lot of these folks. Like Liberty University, Dallas Theological Seminary. That's my religious persuasion. This channel is going to be focused on evangelical evangelism throughout the world, with the emphasis being on not just evangelical, but people receiving the gospel. So if you are a believer who is a Roman Catholic or Greek Orthodox or another kind of Orthodox, and you say, well, that's unfair because my perspective, I'm talking about people accepting Jesus Christ as their Savior. So if you're there on board with us and yet you're within the Roman Catholic Church or another denomination that's not considered evangelical, that's, join us. We may be looking more at mission organizations that are focused from an evangelical bent because they're focused on sharing the gospel. But as we go forward, I don't have a problem exposing, if we have significant people coming that want to hear from their denomination or their persuasion, as long as we agree on the gospel, okay? That's the ground rules that I'm setting, is as long as we agree on the gospel. If you have a different gospel than I do, different than the conservative Bible gospel that is tradition, that goes back to the Apostles' Creed and such, then I'm sorry, but you have to start your own channel. And for that, we would talk about the Church of Latter-day Saints. That we don't agree on the gospel. You have missions, but it's a different kind of missions. If you're, that's the big one, but Jehovah's Witnesses too, such like that. If you're coming from that persuasion, you probably won't agree with me on things. You may be very interested in what's happening on this channel, and you are welcome to be here. You're welcome to interact with folks and everything like that. But I just want to be very upfront with where I'm coming from on these kind of things. YWAM, Campus Crusade, Crew, right? There's so many organizations, so many persuasions, but that's hopefully I've given you an idea of kind of where I'm coming theologically and the kind of missions I'm talking about. I'm not talking about social missions. I'm not talking about building orphanages necessarily. We're going to talk about that. Absolutely. We're going to be, those are good things to do. I would not say that they are core missions, because core missions is about discipleship, about planting churches. You may do a lot of things along the way, and you should be doing things along the way. If you see impoverished people where you are, and you're planting churches, and you're not doing anything for the poor, shame on you. And that's, what kind of gospel are you preaching? What kind of Christian are you that you do not show love and mercy and compassion for those who are suffering? The churches that you plant need to be very focused on alleviating the poverty and alleviating the pain and suffering around them. Now, if you focus on preaching the gospel and training and discipling the churches there to do that ministry work, that's where we are, right? But if you have an opportunity, you better be doing that as well. So that's where we're coming from, and this channel is going to be awesome. God willing, it's going to be awesome. I would love to do interviews with mission organizations, bring those to you, let you know and give you connections on how you can get in contact with mission organizations to talk about becoming a missionary, talking about working in closed access countries. And I have some background in missions and also some background in relief work. So we'll talk about some of that too. We'll get you interviews with missionaries, and we're going to be discussing country by country what's going on in world missions in these different countries. Where is the status of the church in different missions? We're going to be using resources like Joshua Project, Operation World. A lot of these resources I'm going to be trying to get onto YouTube so that you can watch videos about countries that you're interested in, countries that you're praying for, people groups that you're praying for. I want to create content that will help you understand what's going on in the world, to pray better and to pray about your participation in the gospel in those areas. There's the quick and dirty tour of what we're going to be doing here. I hope you're excited about it. I'm excited about it. There is nobody subscribed to this channel yet, and we're going to see what God does with it, right? But my prayer is that many of you will sense the call to missions, and that I can be of some service and help to you, equipping you to become a missionary and to support missionaries around the world. All right. God bless you all, and I'm excited about this journey to come. All right. Bye-bye.